You're watching InDesign tutorials on typesetting with Professor Tennant. This time we're using Chapter 3 of our Exploring CS6 by Cengage. We will be typesetting the 03E production sequence. So you want to open that folder, and on all actuality we think we've got folders for every one of these, and if we look at the artwork and resources for Chapter 3, yes, we do not have a folder for 03E, and the reason for that is we've got everything we need just in InDesign. Okay, so you do need to open the handout that you download, and we're going to page 7, which does get us to the 03E production sequence. Okay, now I would, if I were you, to make sure that you are opening this in Acrobat Reader. There's an advantage to that as opposed to another program such as a viewer of pictures if you're in Windows, your preview, or in Macintosh if it's the preview. Those you might not be able to select the text. But if you have Acrobat Reader, certainly use that to open the PDF. And there's an advantage to using the PDF. Acrobat Reader is actually a free download from Adobe, so you can explore that to get it. Very easy to use if you do not have it, or you can update your version of the Acrobat Reader. And it allows us to select things. It also allows us to select particularly some text. Okay, so we want to locate the directions for the 03E production sequence. Okay, if you scroll down also to page 8, okay, and I'm going to click on this to get to page 8, you'll see the actual size project, and you might be able to select the text if you're using, again, Adobe Reader instead of typing it in. If you don't have access to being able to use this, then you might have to type it in. Okay, you can use zoom in to see what this all says. Okay, and now all actuality, this is the text is how to format, how you can go and produce your files through InDesign. Okay, so we want to read through the directions. So I'm going to go back to page 7, and I want to zoom in here a little bit to our directions. First of all, it gives us our document size. It gives us several margins. Okay, so when we set up our page, we're going from scratch. So here's a picture of it to the side, and of course we have the example on the next page. Once we do that, we're going to draw a text frame from margin to margin. This is why we have the margins set the way that they are, so that we can come in from the edges. It's quite a large margin. Okay, so you will also go and enter an inset into all 4 sides of your text frame. Then we'll add a rule line around it and set it in blue, a blue stroke, and then we'll align it to the inside of the frame. And next, before we get into that, we just have a text frame at this point, and then we need to type in or copy and paste from your document here. Okay, don't go through and set the formatting line for line. So we're going to place a hard return only at the ends of the paragraph, and then that we allow the text to flow or wrap at naturally. Then we can format the character attributes. We add the paragraph formatting after that, and we've got directions for it to turn off hyphenation and several other things that we need to do as far as justification and centering some things and those types of formatting things. We can also check spelling, which is something you want to get in the habit of, and then we want to make sure we make a comparison and run through, make sure everything is good. Okay, here's our run through, and first of all, we need to start with a new document. So I'm going to minimize this and get into InDesign. I have several untitled documents, but I want to go from scratch so that we can see how this is going. I'm going to go to File, New, Document. And it's going to show us a preview if you have the preview turned on in that dialog box. Okay. And you'll notice here that I have everything in terms of pixels. Well, I'm wanting to work with inches because didn't it say we were working with some margins that are in terms of inches? Okay, so I want to change this to a print type of document. Letter size, that was recommended in our PDF here, 8.5 by 11. Okay, and then number of columns, of course, we only want 1, right? So we're going to actually type that in. Margins, we do want to make all settings different. So if you leave it unchecked, or if it's already chained, then you uncheck that and break that chain. And so here we want to type in 1 inch, and if going to a print document, it will set it as in terms of inches. But if you don't see that and it's still in pixels or picas, you can always type in the number and then the IN to represent inches. Okay, so top and bottom was 1 inch. Okay, and then the next one, left and right margins were 0.875. When we type these numbers in, we do want to put decimals in. This represents 0.875 is actually, and I'm going to tab this in, is actually 7/8 of an inch, almost an inch. Okay, 8.5. Okay, good. And then no slug. Okay, so make sure bleed and slugs are to 0. Click OK, and we have our document, and our margins are set up so that I can easily create a text box. Okay, so draw your text frame by clicking in the corner here within the margin. Okay, it should snap to the margin pretty easily. If it doesn't, you can make an adjustment and all the way down to the bottom. So now we have a text frame. Okay, the next thing that we needed to do after drawing a text frame from margin to margin, then we need to enter a 0.875 inset. Now what that does is it gives us space, and it pushes the text in from the edge of that margin because we're going to put a stroke around it. This looks like something we could actually frame and put on our wall. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, this is the text frame. It's an object, so we want to go to object. Okay, it's not the text itself, it's the text frame. And so we want text frame options. Command or Control B if you're into your key commands, which I highly recommend. Okay, so we are looking for inset spacing right here. Okay, and so I need, again, if I click on the name of it here, 0.875, and I'm going to make sure that the chain link is, for everything. Okay, and so there we go. Is that all that we have in here on all four sides? Yes. Let's click OK. Last thing, and you can see the cursor here is away from the edge. So that is showing it away from the edge. Now I'm in a special preview mode. So at the end of our tools, I want to go to normal view. We go to normal. Oh yeah, I am in normal. If we go to preview, I don't see the margin, and in normal view, we do see our margins. Okay, so last thing I want to do is to set the color of my text frame. So I'm going to click on the text frame with the selection tool because I no longer want to work with the text. And so in the stroke area here, okay, I'm looking to click on the stroke itself to bring that forward so that I could set that color into place. So I need a text or a frame with the color blue on the edges. That automatically does put a stroke. Then when we go to stroke, what weight do we need? Now let's take a look. A blue 6-point thick thin stroke. So it's a style also. So we're looking for the weight to be 6 points. Okay, we're in our stroke panel, remember. We want the type or the style to be thick thin. Okay, and last but not least, align the stroke to the inside of the frame, which is easy to do. The align stroke is right here. And we go to, the default is to align the stroke along the center. Now what that does is takes your vector lines, because this is a box built with a vector outline, and the stroke will be across and have the same amount on one side and the other. Now we want to set it to the inside, okay, so that the measurement on our margins on the outer edge is what we want. Okay, so that sets it inside, and we're good there. Okay, and that's the start of our document. Now you want to save it, and then in the next video you will follow the next steps to adding text.